are on, so you're good to go, sir.
Okay, your recording ready?
Yes, I have started.
Recording ready?
Yes, I have started. Thank you.
Okay, today is September the 10th, 2020. The Furnace and Construction Board will come to order. We'll have a roll call by name and organization.
Joseph Maben, Minority Contractors Association.
Bridget Williams, Heavy Constructors Association.
Don Greenwell, Builders Association.
Gabe Perez, Hispanic Contractors.
But if that's all, Ray Malone, Chairman of the Board. We do have a quorum. We're missing a couple board members. Bob, have you heard anything from Bob Lohman?
He's on. I guess.
Bob, you're muted. Bob, you're muted. And Adrian is also on the line too.
Adrian's frozen.
I'm back. Sorry, Adrian Foster. We're National Association of Women in Construction.
Okay. All right, fine. I have a count of 7, so we have a quorum. So the Furnace and Construction Board is now in order. I'll ask you if you read, or if you have read, I'll look for an approval of the August minutes, or if there are any corrections.
I move we
Or
approve
any
this.
corrections.
I did not get a packet. Is that something you can email to me real quick? I got the park stuff, but I didn't get, and I got this.
I can email it to you.
Okay.
Mr.
Well, Bridget,
Chairman,
we'll try to
I move that we approve the minutes as submitted.
I second it.
The minutes have been moved and second to approved as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The minutes are in record as read. At this time, we're going to turn it over to the Human Relations Department for the projects for today. Mark Runge.
Okay, the first project we have is project number 9290/80002041. Water main replacement in the area of North Central Street to Northeast Shoto Trafficway, Northeast 37th Street to Northeast Vivian Road, for a contract amount of estimated at $2,100,000. Do we have someone from Water Services to discuss the project?
Carol Stevens, is someone here from Water? Okay, the next project is also from Water. And so is there anyone here from Water Department at all?
Yes, Blake Anderson with Facilities Engineering, and John Ruddy is a project manager, I think, on the elevated tank storage project. Didn't speak up because I didn't know anything about the water main project.
Okay, so there is no one here to speak on the water main replacement in the area of North Central and North Shoto, project number 80002041. There's no one here from that project. HRD, I'm gonna ask you if you'll set that project aside for now and move on to the next project.
Okay, we'll set that one aside and we'll go to the next project. The next project is contract number 1591, 1/810000930. Water Services Department Administration Building Roof Replacement for an estimated contract amount of $1,500,000. And I guess Mr. Anderson is here to speak on that one.
Yes. So this is a roof replacement project, replacing our existing roof that's used up its existing life with a Derby gum system, possible roof drain replacement, work on our skylights, as well as masonry repairs on the parapets.
Is that the end of your presentation?
Yeah, I mean that's the general scope. Yes. Sorry if I.
Okay. HRD, how do you see the project?
HRD.
By the way, the water department saw that at 10 and 8. 10 and 8. HRD?
HRD also saw it at 10% MBE and 8% WBE with MBE participation in the skylight reglazing and frame repairs. And on the WBE side, in the plumbing, roof drain, and the masonry repairs, and the disposal of the construction debris.
Board, do you have any questions on the project from the board?
Mr. Chair,
If there are no questions,
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Adrian had her hand up. I'm not sure if you can see her or not.
no, I did not. I can't see her. Only thing I see is you.
Okay.
Okay, Adrian, if you speak up, Adrian.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. So I'm sorry I was going in and out, but we are on the second project, is that correct, in regards to the building roof replacement?
Yes, we are.
Okay, hold on.
There was, Adrian, there was no one here for the other project to discuss this, so we set it aside and we moved on to the building roof replacement project 810000930.
Okay, so, and you're on questions, correct, for that one?
Yes. Any question from the board?
Yes, I do. So my understanding on this project is that this has been a rebid, and this is the third time it's being rebid. And
Okay.
I'd just like some clarification on this one, because we have seen it before. It's been a while, and I'd like the background on this one from HRD.
Is there anyone from HRD could shed some light on this project as it came forth before from Ms. Foster?
Mr. Chair and members of the board, there have been some legal issues regarding this project. So if anyone from the legal department, either Dustin or from the water service legal team, can speak to the legal issue, I do agree with Ms. Foster that it has been before the board before, but there were some legal issues surrounding this here project, and I'm not sure I'm privy to speak to all of that. So if Dustin or someone could kind of shed some light on that, I can tell you off the front, it is the recommendation of the legal department to have it come back before fairness. But beyond that, I don't think I'm privy to speak to anything else.
Thank you, Philip. Is there anyone on from the legal department?
This is Dustin, but I mean, I'm not familiar with whatever issue you're referring to, Philip.
Well, my understanding is that that the first time it was bid out, the low bidder who got it was not qualified, or he refused to use a WBE participation, and then he filed suit because there was a minor change on the project, because there was a walk path that was added. So then it was rebid again, and the water department used the average of the 3 bids that they originally got. And then the bids were all over budget. And then the same bidder won. And then he or she was not qualified in a certain scope. And therefore, we're back at bid number 3. So what happens when a bidder wins and refuses to work with an M or a W? That's my question. So
That would be a Philip.
We could just be talking in general, but specifically in regards to this roof project, a contractor, a general contractor refuses to work with an M and a W, and that's not right. And it kind of goes back to that email that I sent out regarding the repercussions of someone not meeting their goals.
Can you tell me who's speaking? Please state your name. Okay.
Adrian.
Okay.
And Adrian, is your question that they refuse to work? This is Bridget. I'm sorry. Is your question that they refuse to work with with all M and Ws, or just a specific M and W?
Well, that's why I wanted HRD or someone from legal to tell us, because this is just I'm receiving it secondhand.
So Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the way the process works, when a company turns in their bid, they turn in what they call a utilization, and then they have 48 hours to turn in their CUP that identifies their M&W firms that they're responsible for. If there's conversation or discussion that takes place before the city receives letters of intent, we are not privy to that, so we don't know what takes place in the city. We don't know what we have to go by.
Philip, I can't hear you.
I can't hear you either.
You're going in and out.
Okay, let me see if I can turn the volume up some.
That sounds better.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, as I was stating, when a contractor turns in that bid, they turn in their bid along with their intent to utilization affidavit for intent to utilization. They have 48 hours after that to submit this in their letters of intent. If there are discussions that take place with the subs prior to turning in that information, we, the city, do not have privilege to that information or what those discussions took place. All I can hold a contractor accountable for is the CUP and the letters of intent. So if a prime says I don't want to work with this MPW, they do not submit their names on the CUP, that's a discussion outside of what we have authority to look into. But as I stated earlier, there are some legal issues surrounding this project that is why this project is coming back to the board again for the goal recommendation.
Okay.
Well, Justin, can't the city rebid a project for any reason, anytime?
Yes, the city rebid for without any reason. They don't have to have a reason. They can reject all bids and just go back out for bid. They don't have to have a reason to rebid a project. They can just reject all bids and go back out.
And the other part of Ms. Foster's question was, what happens when they fail to?
I'm sorry, I'm in a
Do we
meeting.
assess liquidated damages?
They are afforded the opportunity to submit good faith efforts. If it's at the beginning of the project where they are turning in the contract utilization plan and they do not meet goal, they are given the opportunity to submit their good faith recommendation. We did not receive a good faith effort recommendation for this project. To my knowledge, we did not receive it. Other circumstances around it.
Does that help clarify any?
I guess I'm trying to understand if there are legal issues and our legal counsel doesn't know what the legal issues are, what is the expectation of this committee in terms of being able to adequately and appropriately do their, fulfill their responsibilities?
Philip, can I add a little detail?
This is
Please.
Dustin. I think the legal issues you're talking about they were kind of outside of the scope of any goal setting for the project.
Well, I disagree that the contractor, the general contractor, who not only won the first bid and the second bid, and now we're bidding it again, what if he or she applies again and still refuses to work with an M or a W and then is not being truthful? I don't know. I'm just saying. That's why I bring it up. And so I think it does have something to do with the goals, because are we wasting our time trying to set goals when that low bidder could possibly win a third time, and then we're going to be re-reviewing this again? I don't know.
I would say,
Well,
we
can I just?
know that he won't refuse to use an M, a minority or a woman, if he's successful on the third bid. I don't think we can preclude before he bids. We can't punish him before he bids.
if your question is, are there consequences for not meeting your goals? As Philip stated, there are. So beyond that, I'm not sure what else you're looking for.
Okay.
Can I just make a comment?
So he said on the second bid, they refused to use it. Philip got the CUP, and then Philip denied the CUP, is my understanding. So the consequence is it came back to us. My understanding.
Yeah.
No,
Again,
it didn't come back to us.
It's back to us. We've got it right here. Number 2, we're trying to reset goals when we've already set them before. And so I would like to know, what was our goals that we set last time? Because the only thing that's changed. Yeah. Thank you.
But you should be able to, Mark, you should have that. Mokranji.
Yeah, but he's not going to have it. I don't think he would have had that in front of him, Mr. Malone. We would have to look that up and see. Yeah, unless in the department may have that knowledge offhand.
I'm pulling that up right now, but the main change between that was the original goals for this project had a portion of roofing materials and labor that was included, I think in the suggested in the WB portion. What that work is typically work that after bidding this, we found out that primes generally don't like subbing out. Because that's kind of their core liability work, and it's difficult for them to sub out a portion of the roof labor. And so that's a lot of the reason behind bringing this up with you, bringing this to the board again.
Well,
is
that the legal department?
No, that's Blake Anderson. I'm the project manager from Water on this.
Okay.
And
wouldn't that be a case where that contractor should be disqualified if he's not willing to bid according to the ordinance? Because these projects are let out based upon the ordinance. You have to agree to the ordinance in order to bid on these projects.
Mr. Chairman, this is Gabe. It's my understanding, and I don't know all the details, is it's not so much the goal setting and whether or not the successful bidder will adhere to the goals. It's more related to scope of work and second or third bidder challenging the qualifications of the low bidder. So I don't know that it has anything specific to do with the exact goal setting. In the process of challenge, the general contractor made some changes to the scope to better reflect how the work was going to be performed. So I don't know that it has a direct reflection on, and I'm assuming that's the kind of topics that Mr. Yelder can either.
If changes were made, we ought to set goals a second time.
Absolutely.
Third time.
We can only set goals on what's in front of us and those scopes attached to it. And if someone wants to challenge the scope of work, the qualifications of the low bidder, I guess that's probably outside the realm of setting a goal. As long as they adhere to the goals that are set by the Fairness of Construction, the rest of it is probably outside our purview.
Blake, from the Water Department, were you familiar with the original project? And is it this project, has it changed from the original one that in reference to?
There was a minor scope change in between the first bid and the rebid of the project. From an overall goal point of view, I wouldn't say it's a huge change. I think I've added the previous goals were 13 and 8. Were 13 and 8 approved last year. The main difference was simply the roofing labor and materials.
Did they increase or decrease?
So 13 and 8 was what was approved last year. The recommendation here was 10 and 8, if I remember right. Sorry.
No, what I'm asking, you said there was a change in the roof material and labor. Did it increase or decrease?
Our original estimate on the project was 1 million, so our bids came in significantly higher than that. So everything in the project increased.
Okay. Board, any other questions?
So, Mr. Chair, this is Adrian.
Yes, Adrian.
So one more clarification. So the
Sure.
project slightly changed. The last goals were 13 and 8 is what I'm understanding. The difference between the first bid and the second bid was there was a minor change where there was a walk path that was added. It wasn't too significant as the water department or the gentleman that was talking last had stated. So why wouldn't we just keep 13 and 8? Because I believe the dollar amount decreased because the water department used the first 3 bids, averaged those, and came up with a new number, which is lower than what we had before. Is that correct, water department?
It's higher than what it was before.
Yeah, the project is higher. I agree.
50%
Adrian,
higher.
50%, yeah.
And that's the prerogative that the board has, is to set goals. So if you feel the project is going up and the participation has come down, that is your prerogative, and you see the availabilities there. So what's your wishes?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to know whether this is a prevailing wage job or not.
It's got on the front of it that it is.
Mine just says prevailing wage, and there's nothing.
Yeah. You're right, Mr. Lohman. That box is not checked, but I'm pretty sure it's prevailing wage. I would say that it is.
It is. The previous goal request has that. So yeah, it is a prevailing wage job.
Okay. Mine has prevailing. Go ahead. Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve 10 and 8 per HRD's recommendation.
Second.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and second to accept HRD's recommendation of 10 and 8. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I ask a question?
Did someone have a question before we?
I did. This is Bridget.
Go ahead,
so
Bridget.
if there's discussion around the cost of the project going up, the original goals were 13 and 8, and we have just approved 10 and 8, the minority goals went down.
Bridget, that's what I was saying. If the project went up in price and the goals went down, that's when I gave it to the floor to entertain a motion from the floor. I thought they were going to put it back where it was at, but they came back with 10 and 8. I agree with your request, what your statement is.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to clarify that this is not my work, so I'll leave it up to you builders.
Also,
Well,
Mr. Chairman, on
I
the
had a question about the 60,000 for WB and the masonry repairs.
Okay, hold on, Joseph. Now we had a motion on the floor of 10 and 8. It was moved and second, and then we went into discussion. But let's keep things in order. Let's wait until we finish our discussion before we get into a motion to approve or to set a goal. So I need someone to rescind this goal if that's the board's pleasure for further discussion.
Well,
Mr. Chair, you are in order. A motion was made and seconded. You can
Yes.
have discussion around that motion, and if someone chooses to change the motion, you can do that in the area we are in right now.
Okay. So that's where we're at now. If there's no further discussion, does someone desire to set this motion aside so we may set an appropriate goal?
Well,
If there's no
more discussion or a different.
Well, if you have, Joe, if you have something else to say, say it.
Yeah, what
Say it, and if
what
not,
I believe is I think the 10 and 8 is a more appropriate goal. If you look at those first two items, roofing and roofing labor, whoever bids this job is not going to give that up because I'm sure there's a warranty involved in this in some way. So if you take that out, it's just the items under that, and I don't see how you get 13 and 8 there, is my concern.
I understand.
Hence my motion, Joe.
And 10 and 8, 10 and 8 would take out everything with the exception of what the general contractor does, and that's what he'd want to keep for himself. If there's no further discussion, I understand. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of the motion of 10 and 8?
Aye.
Aye again.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next project, the project is set at 10 and 8. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
And
Mr. Chairman, just one point of clarification, please.
Sure.
On the agenda, this project number 2, WS Administrative Building Roof, is noted at 12 and 6 for some reason. I just want to make sure we keep the record straight that we've approved 10 and 8.
Okay. The official papers that I received, Gabe, thank you. Official record papers, it's got 10 and 8. Thanks for your notation.
Thank you.
And can I just say, on this, this is Bridget, on this committee, we may all understand what we're discussing and talking about, but there are people out there that are on the line that doesn't. And so it is good sometimes for us to break it down, even though it makes sense to us. It eliminates a lot of conflicting information that goes on in the community.
Absolutely. And it also would behoove us also to state our names so that, we might recognize each other's voice, but other people may not. So state your name when you begin to talk. Okay, we're moving on to the next project. Mr. Runji, it's back in your hands for project number 3.
The next project is project number 9618, 3 million gallon elevated storage tank. Estimated project cost $8,932,050. And is Mr. Reddy available to speak to the project?
Yes, I am present.
Okay, it's in your hands.
All right. Thanks everybody for your time. This is for a new elevated water storage tank in our south booster system. This tank will be going in at the Prospect Road pump station, which is at about 135th and Prospect Road. This tank is one that Burns and Mack has designed for us, and we have been working closely with them on hydraulic modeling for our system to show need for the tank, and they have helped me come up with the cost estimate here. We have requested goals of 7% and 4%. The tank work is very specialized, and there are only about 2 to 3 manufacturers that will build a tank of this size, which this tank is a 3 million gallon storage tank. So a lot of this work cannot be subbed out that the prime needs to be in control of due to liability. And I have worked closely with HRD to help come up with our goals. And I will open up to any questions you might have about the project for myself.
If the board doesn't have any questions of Mr. Reddy, we're going to turn it over to HRD for their presentation, for their recommendations for the project. Mark Renji.
I was muted, sorry. HRD concurs with the recommendations of the Water Services Department. It's a very detailed breakdown, and there's a lot of small scopes on both the MBE and WBE side that could be done by MBE, WBE subcontractors. Some of the larger ones on the MBE side were the testing, inspection of the soils, foundation, concrete, welding, and the conduit and wire rough-in. A lot of the electrical scopes were segregated for MBE, lighting protection, panels and disconnects, light fixtures, obstruction lighting, underground electrical duct bank, controls and instruments, electric unit heaters, and then some of the piping, the yard piping, the pressure testing the yard piping, pipe disinfecting, and the blow-off assembly from the MBE side. On the WBE side, had the interior aggregate floor and slab, drywall, studs, doorway, ceiling pedestal, overhead vehicle door, interior coatings on the floor, walls, and masonry, the splash pad installation, the testing and inspection of the coating, the asphalt paving, the clearing and grubbing, tree removal, the sanitary sewer pipe crossing, and the potholing utility locates. And we ended up with the same recommendation as the Water Services Department at 7% MBE and 4% WBE. Had one similar project, although I don't believe it was near that big. For the landmark structures was the prime on project number 8817. They came in with a CUP of 7% and 3%, and when it was closed out, they achieved 7% MBE and 4% WBE. The work completed by MBEs and WBEs included excavating, landscaping, concrete supply, electrical, fencing, and dumpster service on that project.
Thank you, Mr. Runji. Board, questions? Are there any questions from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Bob Lohman.
You have the floor.
So I'll address this to Mr. Runge. Mark, I'm a little concerned with the fact that virtually everything is subcontracted other than obviously the fabrication and painting of the water tower itself.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like an awful lot of expectation for subcontracting everything to a minority or woman business enterprise.
And I'd have to refer back to the department's recommendations as well on that, as that, I believe, is what the person reviewing this one based their recommendations on. So if Mr. Reddy could address that as well.
And looking at our past experiences with tanks, the prime is mostly concerned with the tank and the tank structure itself, the coatings associated with the tank, and we felt as a department that the subs, that they would be more than willing to be able to utilize the MBE, WBE subs to do this work. And I was trying to get as much MBE, WBE participation as I felt comfortable with the department, and especially based off of our old projects. So
I understand. It just seems it's a strong pitch to say every subcontractor will either be a minority or a woman business enterprise on a job like this. So just a question.
But the amounts are small. And I would imagine you'd be looking for someone that would do all that concrete work, the walkway, the bollards, the riprap. So I feel you, Bob, I do.
Yep.
But if you look at the big numbers, they are big numbers. I don't think they'll go out and get one for every little one. They'll probably try to group them together. And we don't have, well, we do have hauling on this, and there'll be some. But I feel you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the thought that you would, are there any minorities or women that are large enough that they would bid as a general?
Not likely.
No.
No. And the work is so specialized, really, it's a tank job.
Yes. Yeah. More likely than not, the general contractor who's going to be bidding on that is going to be the tank contractor. And even a portion of the work that they have under the prime, under the Dura Piers and so forth, a part of that would probably be subbed out as well. They're going to get into the steel fabrication and welding and erection of this tank. And the balance, I don't see anything else in there where a tank contractor would just literally specialize in the architecture or civil or the electrical work.
Mr. Chair, this is Adrian.
Yes, Adrian.
Did I miss, there have been previous tanks done before? What were the done?
You came in and out.
I was saying the goals for previous tanks done, what were the goals then?
Well, he was saying that he had no comparison of his size, but he might be able to do some of the smaller ones.
I do have a smaller one for project number 8817, and the contractor utilization plan came in at 7 and 3. And it closed out at 7 and 4.
Okay. I'll tell you, in my past experience, when I worked on these, the tank contractor typically hired a general contractor to sub out all to perform all of the rest of the work. They don't perform any of that work other than the tank work. The ones I worked up down on Front Street and so forth, they didn't do it. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the percentages of HRD and the department at 7 and 4.
I'd second that.
It's been moved and second to accept HRD and the department's recommendation of 7 and 4. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. The recommendation is approved at 7 and 4. Speak your name if you're a nay.
Bob Loman, no.
Okay.
Adrian Foster, no.
There are 2 nays. Ayes have it. Next project. So noted.
Okay, the next project is from Public Works, 890-60816, and it's East 24th Street, North Road, Central Street at Warnell Sidewalk, and its estimated cost of $391,206. HRD reviewed the project and recommended goals of 11% MBE and 8% WBE. There's someone from Public Works to discuss the project.
Yes, this is Randy Alawan with Public Works Neighborhood Services. The project consists of principally sidewalk removal and replacement, curbing, drive approach, ADA, and related work at 3 different locations, principally at East 24th from Van Brunt to Drury, and then north on Drury. Also on North Road in the northwest part of the city, and a small sidewalk project Central and Warnell in the south part of the city. Total value estimated $391,000.
Thank
Be
you.
happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you. Is there any questions before we move on to Ms. Adewine, before we move on to HR? Okay, there are no questions. Let me know how HRD saw it.
Sure. We basically didn't take any of the concrete work on the project and took what was left, the asphalt paving, the utility adjustment, the street name tiles, the storm sewer on the MBE side, and then on the WBE side, the landscaping, the embankment excavating, and the aggregate rock installation, and the traffic control, and concurred with the department's recommendations of 11% MBE and 8% WBE.
Thank you, Mr. Runji. Board, do you have any questions of HRD or Mr. Runji or the Public Works Department?
Mr. Chair, this is Adrian. I do.
Yes, Adrian, you have the floor.
Thank you. I would just say, we've seen this project done several times throughout the city, and the WBEs who I'm representing, are very qualified and capable, as well as our MBEs, and therefore I would ask that these numbers be reversed, where it's an 8 for MBE and 11 for WBE, because they're equal in this regard. We discussed before, and so when you're motion for 8 and 11.
Adrian, is that a motion? Or are we up to discussion?
I hope we're still on discussion.
Yes, we are.
I wanted to know from Mr. Runge, we've had these geobond sidewalk jobs over and over, and it's very near. And despite the fact that there are many minority and women contractors who could bid this as a prime, what have we been doing in past projects on these sidewalks?
I have like 3 of them listed here. Citywide sidewalk with the prime was S&A Contracting. The contractor utilization plan was 14% MBE and 9% WBE. They finished with 34% MBE and 3% WBE. Looks like they subbed out the concrete supply, the curbs, and the hauling on that project. Then they had a Go Bond citywide sidewalk repair south of 85th. The prime was S&A Contracting. The CUP was at 10% MBE and 4% WBE. Contract closed out at 17% MBE and 4% WBE. And on that one, they
Mark is cut out. We're trying to get him back on.
Okay.
Here, I'm back.
Okay.
Okay.
Right ahead.
So I have a third one, the Go Bond citywide sidewalk repair, Missouri River to 85th Street. Again, the goals were at 10 and 4, and the CUP came in at 10 and 4. Contract closed in 2019 at 72% MBE and 4% WBE. Concrete work, landscaping, and hauling were subbed out.
That help?
Yes.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah. This is Adrian again. So I just did, what are those years for those that have been done that he was talking about? I apologize. I didn't get that part.
It looks like 3 consecutive years, 2016, 2017, and 2018.
Okay. And did you say the contractor on all 3 of those were S&E?
S&A Contracting, yes.
Sorry, you were cutting out. Okay.
Yeah, S&A
All right.
Contracting. Yep.
And is
And they're
SNA
an
MBE?
They are an
It's
MBE.
an
Yes.
MBE. And lastly on this, I like, we're going to go with the 11 and an 8, and I understand that Public Works may like that contractor anyway, and so a WBE may apply to be a subcontractor. I don't know, because I don't know from the 16, 17, and 18. So, but I do know that we do have some WBEs that could do it. I just think that, the years have changed. The WBE capability has expanded. The number of WBEs that we have increased. And so as long as they haven't got kicked out of the PNW, I think we should be good and capable to accomplish the 8 MBE and 11 WBE. It would be interesting to see how it would come out.
Well, I would like to see the WBEs be able to achieve the 8%, since they never even made it beyond 4. And that was the goal as late as 2018. I also don't want us to set up for potential WBEs until we get through this HRD audit per se, where we're setting MBEs and WBEs up to achieve a capacity that they really are not performing. So I really want to make sure that the certifications that are there are actually there to be able to achieve the work that we're expecting to be done.
Bridget, this is Adrienne, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go right ahead.
If I could just respond to that. I agree, Bridget. But I will also say that because the WBEs have had a lower amount, we haven't really encouraged the MBEs to really strive harder to work with WBEs. And that's why I'm trying to get that number up to encourage the WBEs to do more work with to encourage the MBEs to work with the WBEs more. And if the MBEs continue to see a lower number for WBEs, we're making an assumption here that, we're not making that number, when it's really up to the general contractor, as you know, and those that are, if the M's have a higher number, then they're less likely to go with a smaller. They're more likely to go with a smaller number for a WBE. So I'm trying to change that, and I think that's just my opinion based off of what I'm hearing from the WBE. Thank you.
And I would be interested in having that conversation offline. But when someone delivers numbers that were, whatever, 17 and 4, 17 and 5, and then only 34 and 3 are achieved, that says to me that somewhere along the way there wasn't capacity. I think it's our responsibility to hold the general contractors accountable to achieve the goal. And if the goals can't be met, I'm assuming that good faith efforts were submitted that allowed them to not achieve the goal amount. To me, to say, okay, you haven't achieved the goal amount, so we're gonna make the goal higher, that's not consolidating in my mind. So I think we need to really understand why the goals haven't been met.
Mr. Chair.
It's important. I'd like to know when these were, now a minority can count as self-performed work. And most of the able contractors and concrete that are WBs could bid these projects as primes, not as subs. And if you've got a minority sub bidding concrete, he's not going to give up concrete to another minority or a woman-owned concern. So
Very true.
we'll just continue to monitor it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Philip. I'd like to speak, just kind of clarify a couple of points that were made. Whenever the contractor falls short in meeting the goals on either the M or W, as Bridget said, they're required to give us good faith effort documentation before we close the project out. So even though they may have fallen short on either side, they still required to provide the good faith effort documentation. So we would have received that before we closed the project out, but not knowing in front what these issues were or why they did not meet, I can provide that at a later date if you like. But the other point is, after 2017, M and Ws were able to count their self-performance. So I'm sure that's why you've seen 72% or something like that on one project, or 34%, because they were, in this case, S&A was an MBE, and he was counting the work that he was self-performing. So that's just the anomaly in this system when you start seeing after 2018 the higher percentage on either the M or WBE side.
Thank you, Philip. Yes, and I think as projects comes in with higher WBE numbers, we'll see them being utilized even more. The availability being known to be there. Adrian, you were about to say?
Thank you so much. Well, I want to take Bridget up on her offer in regards to doing an analysis if HRD could pick, and I understand, Philip, exactly what you guys do in regards to, checking for good faith efforts. I just think that if we could maybe look at 5 scenarios and just kind of evaluate them, I think that would help at least me get a better understanding of how this is working out, so that when I'm here representing the WBEs and or when I receive a phone call from them in regards to how they may have been treated, then I can help explain that to them. But I think that this would be a really good deep dive analysis. That if we could do that, that would be great.
Okay. All right. Okay. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, then I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for to recommend the 11 and 8 that both the department and HRD recommended as goals.
I'll second that. This is Don.
It's been moved and second to accept HRD's goals of 11 and 8. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Who was I? No nays?
No one opposed.
Nobody
No
opposed.
nays.
It's been approved at 11 and 8. Thank you. Next project.
Okay, the next project we have is from Neighborhood and Housing Services. It's no contract number given to it yet. It's for the Via del Sol for an estimated contract amount of $4,740,482. HRD reviewed the project and recommended goals of 13% MBE and 12% WBE. Is there someone from Neighborhood and Housing to discuss the project?
Sure. Hi, Doug Bosser, Neighborhood and Housing Services, Housing and Community Development Division. I believe I also have a representative from the developer, Ms. Kelly Kinnaman. Kelly, are you on?
Yes, Doug, and
okay.
Hello.
So I'm just going to briefly explain the project. So Villa del Sol is a 4% low-income housing tax credit project, primarily funded through the Missouri Housing Development Commission. It's a moderate renovation of 120 apartment units and 46 buildings on the west side off West Penway. The work will include selective demolition, masonry restoration, metal fabrication, rough and finished carpentry, siding, windows, doors, drywall repairs, flooring, painting, specialties, appliances, cabinets and tops, window treatment, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, asphalt paving,
metal guardrails, and some landscaping work.
Okay, thank you. Is that it? HRD? HRD, you want to give us your presentation on the project?
HRD side as we segregated HVAC, paving, and landscaping on the MBE side, and plumbing and electrical on the WBE side. But this project has like about 40 scopes of work included in it, and there's a lot of ways that they could achieve the participation. So we don't think they'll have any problem in achieving the 13 and 12, and may even be and should be able to exceed that. Previous projects that we had for this, we had the Faxon School apartments for estimated cost of $5,100,566. The goals on that one were set at 15 and 11, and the CUP came in at 15 and 11, and they actually achieved 24 and 6 on that one. That was an agency project. Participation in HVAC, landscaping, specialties, installation, materials, supply, asphalt, demolition, environment. This one had some environmental remediation on it, and electrical. The project also had Section 3 participation on that one. Then we had a Morningstar Senior Apartments for $4,840,633. Goals were set at 15% MBE and 9% WBE. The CUP came in at 18% MBE and 8% WBE, and they achieved the 18 and 8. And the participation was in construction management, the appliance installation, the roofing, sheet metal, countertops, flooring, and carpentry. And that project also had Section 3 participation on it.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
Hi, this is Doug Bossert again. Just a point of clarification too. This will also be a Section 3 project, and also a question for Mark or Philip. I know that when HRD gave the proposed goals, they actually put some dollar amounts in specific budget line item categories. As long as the developer achieves the proposed goals of 13 and 12, does it really matter what category it comes in, or just as long as they achieve those goals?
No, it doesn't matter what category they achieve them in. There's a lot of different scopes that they could achieve the goals in. We don't.
Okay, that's the question we had. I appreciate it. Kelly, do you have any questions?
No, sir. Thank you. That clarified it for me. I appreciate that. And I'm certain as a developer we'll make every effort to exceed the goals, but certainly meet the expectation.
Thank you. A point of clarification for those of you who don't know, when you see these numbers like this is simply to show the availability, but not necessarily the place where you have to get your participation. We cannot tell you where to get your participation, but we just desire to show you the areas in which you can get your participation. So that's a very good question for those who don't know that. That's just for our records to show the availability. Questions from the board? Sure, you're welcome.
Is this project have incentives included in it?
I think I said that. Back to you, Doug.
Sure. Yeah, I can. Well, it's when you talk about incentives, Kelly, is there any tax abatement involved in this?
No, sir. There's no tax abatement involved with this.
So basically,
it's
what you have a little bit of. You'll have a little bit of the city's home funds involved in. That's why we get involved in. Majority of the funding is going to come from the Missouri Housing Development Commission.
Tax exempt bonds. Yeah.
Tax exempt.
Tax exempt bonds on 4% from MHDC, and then resubordination of debt from our existing partners, the Housing Authority of Kansas City, are resubordinating debt, as well as our West Side Housing is resubordinating debt. Yep.
And this is a non-prevailing wage project?
Pardon me?
Non-prevailing wage?
That's correct. The prevailing wage will not apply to this project.
Okay.
Why?
Bridget?
Can you tell me why and what the wage will be?
Sure. Well, the source of funding is HUD funding, and prevailing wage for the home funds that we have in it do not take effect unless there are more than 12 home assisted units in this project. The amount of the city's money is really fairly insignificant with the total development cost, but there will be less than 12 home assisted units. Therefore, by the federal regulations, the Davis-Bacon prevailing wage will not apply to this particular project. A couple years ago, the Missouri Housing Development Commission removed the requirement for prevailing wage on any of their projects.
But it will have construction workforce goals.
Generally, these projects do not have those construction workforce goals assigned.
Okay, on the form that I have HRD, it has that this is a construction workforce requirement.
I mean, it's a $4 million project. How could it not have workforce goals on it?
Absolutely. So and I think the minimum threshold for that is only 300,000.
Philip?
Well,
I'm just gonna let him, Doug, were you gonna say something before I chime in here?
No, I was absolutely hoping that you would chime in on this, Philip.
All right. Okay, so it should have workforce goals because it's over the $800,000 cost. I know you also mentioned Section 3, so I know it's going to have the federal requirements of Section 3 here, which has of 10%, at least 10% on the construction side, and 1/3 of all the new hires for Section 3 new hires. So that will be applicable. I'm assuming by now, and I don't know offhand, you probably already submitted a Section 3 to us. Do you know, Doug, or the developer, do you know if you submitted the Section 3 plan or not?
The Section 3 plan has not been formally submitted to the city at this time, no.
Okay.
It will shortly follow this, yes.
So the way the process worked, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, when there's Section 3 dollars involved, the developer has to submit to us a Section 3 plan that identifies Section 3 contractors for the 10% and Section 3 new hires before construction starts. So the housing department, although you all will approve goals and that part will move forward, but they will not be able to start the actual construction until the Section 3 plan is approved. So that would include workforce, that would give them ability to meet Section 3 requirements, as well as the construction labor hours on this, which is the 800, they're with 800 hours and $300,000 in construction.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Mr. Chairman, this is Gabe.
Okay, Gabe.
I would just encourage the developer to double check the prevailing wage requirements, since monies are coming from multiple sources. I know of at least one developer that was surprised on a much smaller scale than this, that if there was city housing dollars involved, the work must be prevailing wage. If you've gotten that clarified, I understand. I just wanted to make sure that we don't run into issues that way.
Understood. Thank you for that comment, and we'll definitely do due diligence on that again. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that could impact your costs greatly.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd make an motion to approve HRD's goals of 13 and 12.
There's a motion on the floor to accept HRD's goals of 13 and 12. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Joe Maven.
Been seconded by Joe Maven. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Need some more eyes.
This is Don. Aye.
Thank you, Don. Bridget, where are you? I'd add an eye to it. That is the quorum.
I don't see Bridget. It looked like Bridget may have dropped off.
I don't see her on here anymore. Anyway, I added mine into it to make sure we have the quorum. All opposed?
And Adrian just texted me that she just lost connection. She's trying to come back in. But...
I'm back, and I say
Oh,
yes. If the goals was the goal 13 and 12, sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a yes.
Okay, ayes have it. All opposed? Ayes have it. Next project. The goals to sit at 13 and 12.
The next project, Dion Lewis will be presenting. It's an agency project.
Good afternoon, board
Yeah,
members. Yes, sir. Good afternoon, board members. This is Dion Lewis presenting for one project today, which is a PIA project. It is the Glade Phase 1. It is a multifamily development with the redeveloper being Millhouse. The proposed budget is a little over $36 million. I have Millhouse on the phone to present its project. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. John McGurk with Millhouse Development. On the phone with me today is Aaron Worthington with Ryan Companies, who's acting as our general contractor, and Justin Bridges with Davidson Architecture and Engineering, who's acting as our architect. Just a real quick overview, and then I'll let Aaron kind of speak to the actual construction numbers. But this project is just under 9 acres, just north of 87th Street on Drury Avenue. So Drury's in between Highway 71 and 435, so just to the west of the Cerner Innovations campus. It's a 263 unit project in an area that really hasn't seen any new multifamily construction in probably well over 30 years. And it's also kicking off the greater 320 acre, what used to be called Oxford on the Blue, now being rebranded as the Glade. And with that, I'll either take any questions or I'll let Aaron just jump into the construction numbers. So Aaron, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
If there are no questions from the board, Aaron, go right ahead with your presentation.
So the construction portion of this, like John McGurk said, is just over 36 million. We've had a lot of good conversations in the past few months as we've been engaging subcontractors, both minority and women-owned businesses. And so we're trying to get creative to get the participation goals on the project. And I believe we came in originally at 15 and 7, and the HRD proposed 13 and 11. Since we've had more conversations of late with all the different trades on the project, which you can imagine it's a brand new project, so there's lots of different scopes. We're starting to fall more in line with the recommended goals from the HRD of 13 and 11. So do you have any questions?
I do.
What?
This is Maben. Why did you break all the scopes down and in your analysis, for example, painting 797,000 and 772, why not the whole scope? And
so
all the major ones have been like that. It's part of I'm just curious as to how you saw it. Even the survey, 70,000, but only 65,000 to be performed.
So the way that we
The whole survey?
The way that we put this together, that is truly our budget amount in our estimate. And some of the bids came in lower than what our budget was, and other bids came in higher. And so we went ahead and plugged what our low responsible bidder was in this scenario. And so that's why some of the numbers are a little bit off.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the developer?
That's
There's
it from us,
nothing
unless
else
you have
for-
any questions for us.
Okay. Are there any questions for the developer at this point? If there are no questions, we'll turn it back over to Dion.
Okay, as I already stated, the proposed budget was a little over $36 million. The developer's recommendation was a little over $5.4 million for MBE and a little bit over $2.6 million for WBE. HRD's recommendation was MBE a little over $4.6 million, coming in at 13%, and a little over $4 million for WBE, coming in at 11%. We had several different areas of availability, and in those particular scopes pertaining to the participation for MBE, we had concrete foundation, drywall, tape finish, final clean as possible areas of participation. For WBE, we had utilities, relocation, plumbing and materials, and also roofing for availability. That concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you. Okay, board, question? How many square feet, building square feet is in that project?
With
Living space?
So with the clubhouse and the apartments, there's about 271,000 square feet of enclosed space.
Good. Okay, 271,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, this is Bob Lohman. I have a question on whether there's prevailing wage or not.
No,
So
we are
not a
not.
prevailing
This is
wage.
shown
scope.
no, yeah.
No, this is not a prevailing wage project.
What about labor force work?
It's not subject to prevailing wage, but it is subject to workforce at 10 and 2.
And why is it not subject to prevailing wage?
It's PIEA. They typically do not have prevailing wage. However, in some scenarios, those things are negotiated. But in this particular case, it was not.
And who's the general contractor?
Ryan Companies.
And where are they out of?
They're based out of Minneapolis, I believe, Aaron, but it's the local Kansas City office.
Yes, that's accurate.
Any other questions? If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, this is Adrian. I'd like to make a motion for 13 and 11.
There's a motion on the floor to accept HRD's recommendation of 13 and 11. All in favor?
Well, I would second that motion.
It's been moved and second. It's been moved and second by Bob Lohman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Goes to sit at 13 and 8. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you. You as well. Thanks for your
13 and 11,
Mr. Chair, 13 and 11.
13 and 11. Got it. Okay. All right. Our last and final project for today is an ad from PIE.
Turn it back to Mark.
Yep.
Back to Mark.
Project number 702-04991, Hodge Park, Shoal Creek Irrigation System. Estimated cost of $964,000. HRD reviewed the project and recommended goals of 12% MBE and 6% WBE. Is there someone from Parks to discuss the project?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, this is James Swan with Parks and Recreation Department. Parks and Rec has 2 golf courses in the Northland. They're side by side. Shoal Creek Park Golf Course is on the east side of Shoal Creek Parkway, and Hodge Park Golf Course is on the west side of the Shoal Creek Parkway. There's a 15-acre lake in Hodge Park Golf Course. That lake currently provides irrigation for Hodge Park Golf Course, and this project will install another irrigation system so that we can use the water in that lake to also provide irrigation for Shoal Creek Park Golf Course. And the scope involved includes a pump house and also about 2,000 feet of a 12-inch irrigation line kind of goes from the lake to Shoal Creek Park Golf Course. I'm here to answer any question that you may have.
Are there any questions from the board before I turn the presentation back to Mark? If there are no questions, Mark, you want to give us your analysis?
Sure. On the MBE side, we found participation in the excavation. And on the WBE side, we had the surveying, the sidewalk, and the landscaping. We left all of the pump house, the irrigation line work for the prime contractor. Had one project in the past for the bunkers at another golf course bunker renovation. The goals on that one were set at 8% MBE and 8% WBE, but we have no CUP or achievement information on that project.
Are there any questions from the board? If there are no questions from the board, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to accept HRD's assessment of 12 and 6.
It's moved to accept HRD's assessment at moved and second to accept HRD's assessment at 12 and 6. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Who seconded?
Already had a
Sorry,
second.
I missed that.
Bridget seconded it.
Yeah, the second.
Oh, thank you.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. That concludes the projects for today. So we're gonna.
Mr. Chair, this is Jerry Stevens with the Water Services Department. I'm the project manager for item number 1 on your agenda. I was not able to get into the meeting. I had some difficulties. I was just respectfully request that you go back up to number 1 and consider that.
Okay, well, it's a poor dog won't wag his own tail. So we're going to move back to your project. Mark Lindsay, if you would take up project number 1 for us, the gentleman's here now.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Project number 9290-800-2041. Water main replacement in the area of North Central Street to Northeast Shoto Trafficway, Northeast 37th Street to Northeast Vivian Road, for an estimated contract amount of $2,100,000. HRD reviewed the project and recommended goals of 8% MBE and 5% WBE. And would Mr. Stevens like to discuss the project?
You bet, Mark. The Water Services Department has a goal of replacing 1% of the water mains in our system every year. This is one of those projects. The goal is to replace 28 miles every year. That's 1% of the 2,800 miles of water mains that we have in our system. This project here would consist of about 8,000 feet of 8-inch and 12-inch water main, would be contributing to our goal of 1% of the 28 miles for this year. This would be a regular, standard water main replacement project with the standard different aspects of the project involved: concrete, asphalt, trucking, seating and sodding, and traffic control, testing, and installation. So this is a standard water main replacement project. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee might have.
Thank you. Board, do you have any questions from Mr. Stevens, right?
Yes.
I would ask what have goals on this project, on projects like these, been in the past? What has been achieved?
On many of the past projects that I've been involved with, we've had goals of 10 and 6, and Mark might be able to address those a little bit more, but that's kind of the area that we worked in is 10 and 6.
Thank you. Mark, you want to give us your presentation and tell us what those you've seen on similar projects?
Yeah, the ones that he has listed here had one for around the same contract amount. For the goals were set at 11 and 6, and the CUP came in at 18 and 6, and they achieved 13 and 5. And then on another one, they had goals set at 8 and 6, and they achieved 9 and 7. And I had a third one in the file here. Let's see. And then I had another one for 9294 at Northfleet, water main replacement on Northfleet. And those goals were set at 6 and 3, and they achieved 5 and 7. And another one for water main replacement on State Line. The goals were set at 10 and 5 on that one, and no information on what's been achieved on that one yet. HRD found participation on this project, and on the MBE side, in the traffic control, the asphalt pavement restoration, the hauling, and the seeding and sodding. And on the WB side, on the concrete restoration, and the construction staking, and the erosion control. But there's availability for all of those scopes on both sides, either MBE or WBE.
Mark, it appears as though when the goals were set higher, they achieved more. When they were set less, they achieved less. Why did you guys seek to reduce the goals from the recommendation from the department? And it shows that what you've been getting back on the finished projects and the CUPs are higher. Can you explain that?
It looks like to me, the person that reviewed it didn't take out any of the pipe material and appurtenances, because the department calculated it at 25% instead of the 60% that it should have been calculated at. And if he had included the pipe material and appurtenances at the 60%, it would have put the goals up significantly higher. So I think that's why that he did not segregate that part out.
So it's
but had you taken that out at that percentage, then the goal would have been higher.
Yeah, so it would have been a lot higher.
At 6%, Mr. Chairman, it would have been around 18% on the MB side. If you'd have set the goals, it would have been around 18 and 6, which would have been about 24% if you would set the goals using that percentage. But the pipe material should have been at 6%, and they calculated at 25%. So it was I think staff went back and made them aware that the code had changed. The material costs are credit now 6% instead of 25%.
Okay, thanks, Philip. But I just don't see why HRD didn't put that into their analysis. I see they have it in the availability. I just don't understand why they reduced the goal that amount, and the availability was there to show it. And I think when you put the goals up, they achieved the goals. So Mark, do me a favor. Would you?
Sure.
I know there was one though. Just read back those projects one more time for the board. I just want the board to see what was achieved.
Yep. They had one in the area of North Central. Oh, wait, no, that's not it. The one set at, the goals were set at 11 and 6. The CUP came in with 18 and 6, and they achieved 13 and 5. And then a second one, they had goals set at 8 and 6. The CUP came in at 9 and 7, and they achieved 17 and 8. And then I had the other two in the file. One of them came in, the goals were set at 10 and 5, but we don't have any information on what they achieved on that one. And another one where they were set at 6 and 3, and they achieved 5 and 7. Those are the ones that they printed off on this one.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Philip. Getting back to your question. So as Mark indicated, when we segmented the goals, we did not segment the pipe material at 25%. If we, by segmenting correctly, which has been at 60%, that particular availability would have been, I'm sorry, $357,000. So 357,000 of the goal amount would have moved the participation to 17% on the MBE side and 10% on the WBE side, just leaving water department's evaluation. Or if you take the 5% that we had recommended, it'd have been 17% MBE and 5% WBE had we left the pipe and material as one of the, it's available, but it's still up to the contractor to use. All right, we segmented that.
Yes, I understand.
We were, as I think, Mark, as we were just trying to make sure we were staying close to what we have been achieving before on these types of projects, which is somewhere around the 10% and 6%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have more than one pipe supplier?
I don't think we have more than one pipe supplier. We definitely have more than one material supplier, but not pipe.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification. Are there any questions from the board? If there are no further questions or discussion.
I do have a question. Who is the contractor that will be doing this work? Do you know? Has it been bid yet?
No, this contract has not been bid yet.
In the past, do you have any idea of who the previous contractors were?
There's about 5 or 6 different contractors that normally bid on our projects. Rodriguez, Blue Nile, Kissick, Henninger. That's ones I can remember right off the top of my head. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 more, but those are normally the ones that are in this type of business.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bridget, some of the other ones, Mr. Chairman, is like Leith and Sons, Haynes and Associate, Beamer. Those are some of the other ones that bid this type of work. Redford Construction, and as he stated, Rodriguez McCann, they bid this type of small main replacement, water main replacement.
Okay.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Okay, board. Or do you have any further questions on the project? If there are no further questions, I will entertain a motion from the board.
This is Bob Lohman. I would make a motion to approve HRD's recommendation of 8 and 5.
Second.
Who second?
Bridget.
There's a motion that has been moved by Bob on the floor to accept by Bob Lohman is second by Bridget Williams. All in favor? To accept HRD's 8 and 5.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Those are set at 8 and 5. Okay, thank you. We're going to move on into
committee.
Thank you. We're going to move on into item number 3 of the business. I believe Mr. Maben had something that he'd asked to be put on other business. Joseph Maben.
I'm concerned that the city's concession contract for the convention center has not met the spirit nor the letter of the city's inclusion ordinance. The city will soon issue an RFP for a new concession agreement whereby a successful contractor will have exclusive rights to collect revenues and remit commissions to the city for electrical work required for conventions and events held at city venues. The incumbent contractor, Green Wave, has held the contract for over 10 years. But I do not recall the contract coming before the Fairness Board. So I've just got some questions that before the third round of RFPs for this work, what city department is responsible for the oversight and the goal setting? Is it General Services or HRD? Where MWB goes on the project set on the gross receipts of the project or on the percentage of the commissions paid to the city. And you can see that would vastly reduce the amount of work for a minority or woman-owned electrical company. Has this contract been tracked through B2G Now and MyLCM over the time it was held by Green Wave? I don't know. This one may have fallen through the cracks. And what is the role of the Fairness Board in the monitoring of this project? Some of this, we had this concern recently about whether or not it was our purview or another city department. And will the MCA be notified of the opportunities so that MWB concerns can compete? So, Philip, I want to take a look at this and find out what's the status of the concession contract, and will it come before our Fairness Board? And in retrospect, have goals been set and met? Who set the goals? Has there been any reporting over the last 10 years that Green Wave has had the contract? I just need to know.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Yes.
Kind of walk through some of those questions that Mr. Maben asked, and I may not go in the same order, Mr. Maben, that you asked them, but I will try to address as many of those as I can. If I miss some, please remind me. So first of all, the current RFP, it was an RFP, not a contract that came before the Fairness Board. It was bidded out as an RFP by the General Service Department. I guess you're right, about 5 or 10 years ago. There has been a current RFP being lent or being proposed to be put on the street. Goals have been set at that at 10 and 5. This was not a construction related contract, so it did not come before Fairness. The electrical scope that Mr. Maben is referring to is one area of service for the contract. It is my understanding that it is not the primary area of the contract, so convention is the owning department of that solicitation. The project was tracked through B2G. And the project was tracked initially. It was tracked on the on the commission that was paid to the city. The new contract language requires that they meet goals based on the gross receipts of the contract. So that's one of the major changes in the new solicitation or the new proposal language that is on the street. I think I hit most of them, Mr. Maben.
So I would ask, who set the goals at 10 and 5?
HRD did.
And it's my understanding in the existing MBE-WBE ordinance that there should be a fairness in construction, a professional board set up who would oversee and monitor those goals. Where are we in that?
We have submitted recommendations to the mayor's office to appoint the members for that board. They have not been appointed yet.
So then in a vacuum, HRD is still setting the goals.
Until a board is appointed.
Okay, so then tell me how electrical, and it is a big aspect of that contract, how the electrical is not considered construction.
I didn't say electric wasn't construction. I said the project was not considered as construction. The project was deemed to be more a professional service contract than a construction related contract.
And so that determination was made by who? General Services or?
Yeah, I get, because that's how it came over to us, because it came over to us as a professional service contract, not a construction related contract.
So I think we have a responsibility, and we can't push back what we don't know. But to me, just like we're pushing for projects that have 1 penny of city dollars in to be prevailing wage, if it's got one penny that construction is involved in that, then we should be a part of setting those goals. Particularly if HRD is expected to monitor them. So I don't know how this continues to get circumvented.
Yeah. And there's another question that bothers me, Bridget. If we, in fact, did set the goals of 10 and 5, we would never have set the goals on the commission and
right.
not on the gross receipts of the project. That's my
Gross receipts.
Right.
I agree with Bridget and Joe.
Because I think what is going to happen is there's going to come a point in these contracts where heating and cooling is going to have to be replaced, the roof is going to have to be replaced, all of those things, and those goals should be decided independent of each other. You can't have a 10 and 5 goal across the board on all of the construction in that building. And then to turn around and say it's on gross receipts or net receipts. And as I understand, is this a local company?
I believe Green Wave is a local company. The current vendor is a local company.
The current vendor is local, and it's never been monitored or audited. And we can't, just can't.
Clarification, it has been monitored. I mean, we have monitored the project. They have reported their participation or utilization in B2G. I know there's
on net receipts.
On the net receipts, yes.
And that's my rub. That's just wrong. We've never set goals on net receipts.
We didn't set the goals on the net. We didn't set the goals on the net receipts. The goals were set on the gross receipts. This is a department issue in terms of how they communicated with their vendor. We did not, when I say we, HRD, we did not set the goals on the net receipt. We always set the goals on the gross receipt. So how that did not get communicated to the vendor in their contracts and their language, that is an issue for the convention to address. But I can assure you, when we set goals, we set it on the gross receipts, and we've communicated that again in the second round of RFP that it should be on gross receipts. And it's clearly stated in this RFP and in the documents that it's on gross receipts. Why it was not in the first documents 5 or 10 years ago, I really don't know.
So then I think in this particular situation, if they've been entering in B2G on net receipts, they essentially have not met the goals. And they're non-responsive. I mean, I don't know, and I could be wrong, but it might not have said in the agreement that you don't have to submit on gross receipts, but it certainly didn't say that you were to submit on net receipts. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how you're supposed to submit.
We never would have done that.
So how are they even allowed? Are they rebidding? Because isn't this the second or third bid now?
They are rebidding. They are rebidding the project. They're rebidding the project with all this these clarifications in the bid documents about this being a project based on gross receipts, not on net commissions. It's also clear that they have to, pay the subs, and the subs have to pay they pay the subs a portion of the contract utilization, MBWBE. So all that's clarified in this particular RFP. Now, again, I cannot speak to what was not in there previously, and I get what you're saying, because even it may not have been listed verbatimly in the RFP, it's still in our codes what the requirements are.
Right.
Exactly.
So
have
this,
they met workforce goals, Joey? I mean, just to throw it out.
I'll have to check.
Mr. Chair, this is Adrian.
Yes, I did. Go ahead, Adrian.
Thank you. So I agree with what Bridget and Joe is completely saying. And I want to emphasize one of the things that Bridget just said in regards to how are we allowing, this is going to be the third time, my understanding, that this goes out for an RFP, knowing that the winner of the bid has produced in bad faith, I want to say, has not done what its responsibilities are. It kind of goes back very similar to what we were talking about today in the second scope that we were looking at for the roofer. I think that this is almost the same thing. How are we allowing some contractor business to, again, go after a bid when we know what their past experience has been on the same project? I mean, the definition of insanity is doing something over and over again in hopes to get a different result. So why do we think we're going to get a different result?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I can just speak to what I know about the project. I know that there was lengthy discussion about this particular proposal with the council and with the various committees of council. And there was an agreement to go back out for bid by the council and the owning department, which is conventions and entertainment. So that's how the decision was made to go back out for a RFP. It was made by those decision makers. We did not have, when I say we,
it was on the committee.
Was it
Finance committee.
Finance committee, yes.
Yeah. I think though, I would just say to you, Philip, it would be my opinion that anything that has 1 ounce of construction component should at least be bought to this committee, even if it's for informational purposes. And the committee then determines the role that they play in it. Because we continue to get blindsided by this, and it is not helpful for you, for us to continue to get blindsided by this stuff.
So,
especially since you can only get a chance to even compete for it every 5 years.
Right. So,
Mr. Yelder.
Excuse me, Mr. Perez. Before I answer you, is Dustin still on the phone? Because there is a current provision in the code now, I think, that triggers the projects that come to fairness. Can you speak to that, Dustin?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's construction contracts over 300,000, and because kind of if they're bid out as one, it kind of depends on how the department decides to bid them out. They could bid them out as a separate professional services and a separate construction, but if they're all lumped together like this one is, I think there's just kind of a value judgment. I don't think the code speaks to that specifically about how to make that determination. It's just kind of the scopes of work involved.
It says any construction contract over whatever the threshold
300.
is.
300.
And yeah, if whether it's professional services or whatever, it's coming to you. There's a component of it that is electrical. In this example, it is no different than a project coming to you that has a component of professional services in it. We still, as a construction board, weigh in on that. And I feel strongly about this because I think this is how part of the reason the system is being gamed. And either we're going to take the responsibility seriously, or, you know, we're just going to be a rubber stamp. But I don't think we can allow this to continue to stand.
Madam
Mr. Chair,
Chair,
this is Adrian.
excuse me, Ms. Foster, and I agree. I don't have a problem bringing them to you all. So I'm just saying, going forward, allow Dustin and I to, because I know that's going to be a policy change in terms of what currently comes before the Fairness Board. So if I'm hearing you say any project that has prevailing, because I thought it was triggered by prevailing wage, but it may or not be. So
we just approved several contracts that don't have prevailing wage. I mean, and that's the next issue. How does one incentive agency just unilaterally determine they don't have to pay prevailing wage? That's next. But I think, you know, I don't want to hog all the limelight here. I thought I heard Gabe had a question.
Yes.
Well, let me hog a little bit.
Well, he did. We're going to go to Gabe first before going to clarification before your next, Gabe. Now, my understanding is the $300,000 threshold is what triggers it coming before the Fairness Board for construction. So whether it's a part of a project like the one at Convention Center where you've got construction, where there's roofing or where there's electrical, it's construction and it's over $300,000 overall project. So that my understanding is that's what triggers it coming to the Fairness Board.
So
I could be incorrect, but I think that's what the ordinance says.
So right now, Mr. Chairman, it's what's if you look at the goal request, if for right now, what's triggers it is if you look at bullet number 2, it says project subject to prevailing wage requirements only. So those projects, when it says prevailing wage requirements only, that's a trigger for us over 300,000, right? First, prevailing, it's over 300,000 and prevailing wage only.
Wage, yes. Yeah.
But this one here is my understanding, the project that you're referring to, it has both prevailing wage and non-prevailing wage in it. So it has a scope of work that's prevailing wage. And I think what I'm hearing you all say and the board say, anything that has potential or has prevailing wage in it, you want to come before the board. So what I'm saying to you, I don't have a problem with that. Just allow me the opportunity and Dustin to, because this is something we would have to change in the city's code to be able to bring those projects that has both prevailing and non-prevailing wage to the board.
And if it comes up for any of the city council board for discussion, make sure that we, the Fairness Board, are, you know, and given the information and the ability to be able to testify. Gabe.
You know, nobody's asked how much they've received over 10 years, but these contracts will start out and they'll grow into the millions.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Gabe. Go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, let me just, because I remember this specific contract and this specific contractor very well when they opened their business up 10 years ago to and bid it on this project. And we had this almost identical conversation with a lot of the same people that we're talking to today about every single issue you're raising. We shared the issue with what prevailing wage issues. We shared the concern about how these projects grow. They come under the cap and then they grow to millions of dollars, which is a sweetheart deal if you get them. And just everything that it brought up, this is areas that we've already covered. If my recollection is correct, I believe the coalition wrote a letter to this very subject when this contract came up the first time.
We did.
I don't remember it. Is Greenwave still an MB or a WBE? Do you know, Mr. Yeller?
They're not certified with us, Mr. Perez.
Okay, because that was one of the issues that came up, that they were either had got certified as WBE or their certification was pending. I didn't know how that ever worked out. But we were very familiar with all the players on this contract when it was originally let and originally awarded. And we had the same questions then, and I don't think we ever got any traction, including why some alphabet organizations continue to manipulate prevailing wage and non-prevailing wage. So evidently none of those questions were answered, but this is all the stuff we brought up 10 years ago, if you can believe it.
My goodness. So this has been brought before the attention, but never anything acted on it.
No, sir. And I remember this contract
Anyone else?
specifically.
Yeah, are we finished with that topic?
Well, what are the recommendations? Let's get some type of recommendation where we go to from here.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, to answer Mr. Perez's question. Mr. Perez, I do not see Green Wave in our system they have been certified or decertified. I don't have any information on them that they've even submitted an application.
Okay. I remember that conversation, and that was an issue at the time. Or they were asking the coalition to support them somehow, or anyway. So I do remember this contract. I can't believe I've been involved for 10 years, but I do remember this contract.
was trying to put it in his wife's name, Gabe.
Well, I didn't want to mention names, but yes, I do remember all of that.
So, Joe, do you have a recommendation?
Well, I just think, does this guy get to continue to bid Green Wave? I mean, and I think we ought to be setting a goal on this rather than, and we need to know why it changed from, we never would have set a goal based on anything but gross receipts. I think we ought to know why the minority and women-owned community has been cheated out of participation by setting it on the commission, which only helps Green Wave.
And Mr. Maven.
And if convention and bureaus visitors did that, then I think they ought to be called out too. Bridget, it's about protecting turf. Everybody's running like to meet the inclusion goals is such a bother. That's what we had all those years with the acronym organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, so you're going to get back with
the bottom of this.
And that's what I want to know. Where do we go from here? We can't just let it continue to go, because the project will be let, and then we'll be in the same position we've been in for the last 10 years.
Well, I think at a minimum,
I'm almost willing to go to council if but I wouldn't do it without the consent of the board.
well, why? I mean, I don't have any problem Ray, you and Joe going to council over this. Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, it has to start somewhere. There has to be, an acknowledging that there's a problem, and where do we go from here? We can't allow it to just continue, not keep it here.
And we ought to anticipate this prior to activation of the Fairness and Professional Contracts Board too. We ought to have this solved out so we don't continue to have this splitting it up so it benefits or helping people avoid the goal requirements we would set were it to come to fairness.
Yes.
Well, I think you should have a conversation with Councilwoman Shields, who chairs finance, and, get on the agenda to have this discussion before. I don't think the RFP is out yet, is it?
I think they've already, I don't know. I thought they'd already submitted it by now. They've already put it in, because I know I'm sorry. I know there was a discussion about a contract extension for the current vendor to allow this RFP process to move forward. I think there was a 3 or 6 months request for an extension on that. And so I thought by now it was on the street. I may be wrong, but I believe that's what was communicated, that they was putting it on the street. So, but we can definitely follow up.
I think you guys need to have a conversation with the members of that finance committee. Melissa Robinson, Councilwoman Shields, I think Councilwoman Shaw is on there. McManus, I think they'd be receptive to that.
Ray, I'm willing, if you are.
Sure. How do we get on the agenda? When will they be back in session?
Wednesday.
Yep, next week.
Mr. Chair, this is Adrian.
Yes, Adrian.
I just want to say, this is also for a point of clarification, that bid also not only had electrical, but it also has plumbing.
Have you got a copy of the RFP? Have you saw?
I do not have it, but I do know that it does have plumbing on it because they have to
Philip,
do water hookups.
Philip, if it's out, can you get us a copy?
Sure. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, one of the things I took away from some of this discussion was that, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, so correct me here. All projects with a prevailing wage scope to come before fairness. Is that what I'm hearing you all say that you all would like to see? So even if the project has other scopes, but if it has a scope that would have construction related scope of work in it or prevailing wage, you saying that you want to see that project come before fairness? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So maintenance contract that involves construction scopes, it ought to come before fairness.
Right. So we do have several maintenance contracts out there, HVAC, elevators, those kind of things. So those have not previously been coming, but like I said, Dustin and I work on this along with the construction contractors, construction administrators, at least in the city, I'll bring you some report back next month in terms of what this looks like and the progress that we're making.
And Ray, won't we need some information on that contract over the past 10 years, what's achieved, what the goal is, something before we run
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. There's no way to set anything until we can see what they've done in the past. What did they achieve? Have they done anything? And also, if they did not meet, apparently they didn't have any goals. What happens if they didn't meet them? What has happened in the past? Was there any repercussions? Was there any incentive for them to meet goals?
We ought to know that.
So if we could get some of that information, Philip.
Mr. Yelder, Gabe Perez, was part of the argument way back when is that they were arguing that these were maintenance agreements, therefore shouldn't fall under construction or prevailing wage.
Mr. Yelder has left the building.
He has left the building. Okay. Something rang.
Gabe, it might be a good idea, since you have some background information on this, that you would sit down with Joseph and myself. Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Because I remember really hashing over this thing, and it was moving target. It's really twofold. It's these maintenance contract to avoid the construction classifications, and then there was the other issue of prevailing wage and how people like PIEA and TIF avoid prevailing wage requirements.
Okay.
And I must say, when it's an RFP and not a low bid situation, the opportunities for you to favor one over another, especially with, you get 1 year and then you can sign up for other years. I just think the whole thing bears. Then we find out it wasn't based on, we ought to take a good look at this.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been deserving of a hard look for a lot of years now.
Okay. Is there anything else?
I would like to ask, I've received a couple of questions in the last few days, and Philip is back. Philip, what is the story on Tycon Construction?
company has been bought by another person, and that new individual owner has taken over operation of the company. They went through a legal procedure to ascertain ownership of that. That was communicated to us, to the city, by the courts. And so right now, Tycon, as it previously existed, is no longer owned by the Tycon family. It is owned by another individual.
But the city is still paying the Tysons?
To my knowledge, I don't think they are. I thought that had stopped some time ago.
Yeah, we're just, there was 3 projects that Tycon had finished, kind of in the course of this huge ownership issue. I've been dealing with this since last August, so it's at the forefront of my mind. The surety had to step in. They're distributing the funds and making kind of the call on who gets paid for what, because unfortunately either the former owner or current owner and the future owner or whatever can't come to an agreement about the ownership situation. And then at this point, the new owner has actually terminated the company with the Secretary of State's office, so there really is no Tycon anymore. I'm happy to answer any other questions, but it's resolved, and the Tysons will be paid for work that they've done, but I don't know how much, and that's all what they've agreed to with the surety.
So the new owner is now okay with the city?
Well, the new owner terminated the company. I think she started a new company, or was planning to start a new company, and I haven't been involved in any of that. But yeah, that she terminated Tycon.
Do you know who got the equipment and the property?
I don't. I've luckily had gotten to get out of that part of it. I think it's been quite a fight.
Yeah, Dustin, in terms of Dustin follow-up, yes, the new owner has started a new company. But I don't know how the payments are being structured because, like I said, there was about 2 or 3 projects left in the system we were tracking. And I believe that the bonding company took those over.
Right, there was 3.
Has she applied for certification?
Yes.
And I think the former owners also started a new company. Is that right, Philip? I don't know if they've applied for certification as well.
I don't know about that one. I don't recall seeing anything come across my desk about the previous owners, but I know the new owner has started a new company.
Well, I know that there are apparently there are several companies that are being started by the members of the family that are coming forward. That a couple of bank accounts and checks have been cashed. That, and this is just what I've heard, but I guess I'm trying to understand, when something like this occurs, how does that impact an individual who then comes back and starts a new company? Do you go back and investigate their past practices? I mean, for example, somebody trying to set up a bank account in someone else's name?
So in terms of the certification, Bridget, some of this is what you're mentioning here in terms of the people starting new companies. I know that members of the family already had companies that were certified while this was taking place. And some of those companies are still certified with us. In terms of cash and checks, I mean, I haven't heard anything about that. And that would not have been some type of fraud that was committed, and that was we were made aware of that. A fraud, a felony took place prior to certification. But if no one provided us with information that, hey, this person forged checks or something like that to open a company, I wouldn't see it unless there's a public record out there somewhere or someone brought that to our attention. That's not something that we check during certification. Is there any public things that have happened that were illegal or something of that nature? The only thing that we are obligated to look at is that if they have outstanding prevailing wage violations or prevailing wage obligations that they have not addressed. By the code, we are required to investigate that and again, deny them certification based 7-day week.
Okay. And then
So
my
if
final.
Excuse me.
No, go ahead, Joe.
So if they're convicted, go to jail, come out, they can certify a new company. There's no oversight of how it ended or what their prior engagement was.
If it didn't harm the city, let's say if the city was not damaged in these types of transactions that these individuals may have committed, we don't know that. We wouldn't see that. That would not be a reason to deny them. Unless, like I said, there's a misled us in terms of their ownership, management, and control of the company, some type of fraudulent activity. But if they harm a resident, let's say they didn't fix the driveway and all that kind of stuff happened, I wouldn't know that that would apply or that would be something to take up in terms of doing that certification. I could take up, like I said, issue if they had outstanding prevailing wage obligations owed to a fringe benefit or something of that nature that did not satisfy those requirements.
Thank you.
And finally,
any further discussion? Go ahead, Bridget.
When will we be notified on the personal net worth, who is in the program and who is not?
So I plan to give you all an update, kind of let you know where we are on that this afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the board. As you know, we sent out letters in July, emails in July, asking folks to respond by August the 1st. We received responses from about 400 and some companies, about 420 some firms that responded to the initial request. It's about 80 some firms that did not respond one way or the other. That means we did not receive any communications back from them. And so they were all given to August the 1st to respond. We did have some firms that sent us notes saying, give me a few extra days. I'm getting it from my accountant, CPA, whatever. So we are obligated and we are working with them on those particular issues. We're currently right now going through those 400 and some applications to determine if they meet the personal net worth test for those firms that did respond. I have to October the 1st to complete that exercise. So we are on track to try to make that happen.
Mr. Yelder, when was the request sent out?
We started sending the request out July the 2nd.
Okay, so there was 4 weeks to respond by the contractors, but you have 12 weeks to review.
Yes, I mean, when the ordinance was passed, we sent the first correspondent out July the 2nd. We sent out letters July the 7th. We sent out emails, I believe around the 14th, the 24th, 27th, 31st, again on August 13th, reminders. So we sent about 2 letters and I think about 4 or 5 different emails to vendors asking them to complete the affidavit and provide us with the personal net worth form. But yeah, if you look at it, yes, we have 12 weeks to review and to review those qualifications. So we're working through those 400 and some firms to look at those.
Philip,
Mr. Chair, this is Adrian.
Yeah,
go ahead,
Adrian.
I was just going to say, are you guys going in alphabetical order, or how are you going down the line?
We're split
in regards to reviewing them.
We have split the directory up between 4 of us to review those. So it's in alphabetically, but I mean, I don't have all the A's. I have some, and the other persons have on the team have some other ones as well. So all the applicants have been, all the firms have been split up and divided among four individuals to review.
Okay, so I had a couple more questions. I had sent a quick email to everybody, and that is, what is, people were getting, are saying they were on the graduation because you guys are looking at a 3-year look back, not a 5-year look back. And I remember being on, you know, when the 5-year look back went into effect, we discussed it. I just assumed that that was already going to be put into the program, that it would be a 5-year look back, not a 3-year. Can you give me some clarification on that?
Right. So we have not adopted a 5-year look back into our program, and that's because it has not been written into law. I know that the SBA has adopted a 5-year look back, or have given companies the option to choose 3 or 5-year look back. But in terms of our certification, we still adhere to the 3-year look back, which is tied to our federal DOT program. So we're consistent with that until the law is actually changed on the DOT.
The law is changed. Yeah.
So
I just want you, yeah.
Until the law is changed on the DOT level, because we have firms that are both MBE, WBE certified as well as DBE certified. So in looking at that, it would create a more of a challenge for some firms to for the certification, that they would not meet the DBE threshold and may meet an SBA threshold. And right now we use the DOT as our kind of our standard for certification and standards for trying to adhere with that program.
And I would just like to point of clarification. It was signed and put into law. It was, and I sent you guys that January 6th, 2020. I know it was adopted, but it was also passed in the House and the Senate. It was signed by the president. And so it is being implemented in SBA. I just want to point of clarification. So DOT, you're saying that US DOT hasn't adopted it? Correct?
No, that's correct. They have not.
Okay. Until US DOT adopts it, you guys aren't going to adopt it.
Right, and they have looked at it. I know they're looking at it because I've looked at some communication. After you sent the email today, I reached out to some of our other resources and peer partners, and we all have seen the emails from DOT saying, you know, this is still under their review. As you know, they have a period where they review all these, even though it's signed by the president, it's still not law until they actually issue the rules for that. DOT does, and so they have not done that. And so as a result, we have not implemented that in our overall program.
Okay, thank you. And then, and I believe Bridget was bringing up, she brought up about, then you're going to provide us a list because of who's been, in a.
I'm sorry, Adrian, you cut out on me. I just
meeting you have to be sending to us.
Can you repeat it? Because you froze up for a moment there, please.
Oh, sorry. I was just asking that there was a meeting yesterday where Dion Lewis from your office stated that 85 MWBEs have been removed from the directory because of non-responsiveness. Is that the list you're going to be sending to us?
Would you like a copy of that list? Yes, I can send that to you.
Yes.
Thank you. And then I also have some other questions.
Send it to all of us.
Yeah.
I will. I'll send it to all of you.
Okay. So, okay. So yes, I had copied you on that email as well in regards to my other questions in regards to personal networks. So that would be great. Lastly, Mr. Chair, I apologize, but there was one other outstanding issue from our last fairness in construction meeting in regards to, and it kind of goes on the things that we were talking to, penalties assessed to those contractors who do not meet the MWBE goals. We were discussing at that time the asphalt and concrete restoration project. And Philip, I believe you're going to check and see what those penalties were assessed, or if they were assessed, what were they? And if they weren't assessed, why not?
Right. And I apologize, Adrian, because when I looked at your email, I went back, I tried to get a copy of our minutes to see was a particular project you were talking about or just overall projects in general?
No, there was a project. And I don't have all that with me because I'm in the car, but I can send it to you.
Oh, you're in the car. It looks like you're sitting down eating.
I think
I
she's
am
on the
eating,
beach.
but I'm in the driver's seat.
Oh, God. All right. So again, Adrian, I apologize for that. So you said there was a particular project last month we discussed where this came up at?
Yes.
Okay, I will look through the
and I will pull it off my notes, but I did not bring it that way. So I just brought my email that had sent. So no worries. We'll follow up again.
All right, I will follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Before the next board meeting on that.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other discussion on other business? If there's no other discussion on other business, our next meeting is October the 8th. There is nothing else before this body. We're going to move to adjourn. Everyone be safe and wear your mask.
And
Social
go Chiefs.
distance. Go Chiefs.
Thank you. All right, thank you, guys.
Most of all,
thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Everyone be safe.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.